Chapter 6. On that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the book of records of the Chronicles, and they were read before the king. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus. And the king said, What honor and dignity hath been done to Mordecai for this? Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, There is nothing done for him. And the king said, Who is in the court? Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house, to speak unto the king, to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. And the king's servant said unto him, Behold, Haman standeth in the court. And the king said, Let him come in. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, What shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor? Now Haman thought in his heart, To whom would the king delight to do honor more than to myself? And Haman answered the king, For the man whom the king delighteth to honor, let the royal apparel be brought, which the king useth to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal which is set upon his head. And let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man withal whom the king delighteth to honor, and bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, Thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delighteth to honor. Then the king said to Haman, Make haste, and take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew, that sitteth at the king's gate. Let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken. Then took Haman the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaimed before him, Thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor. And Mordecai came again to the king's gate. But Haman hasted to his house mourning, and having his head covered. And Haman told Zeresh his wife and all his friends everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Zeresh his wife unto him, If Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shalt surely fall before him. And while they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlains, and hasted to bring Haman unto the banquet that Esther had prepared. We see here the hand of the Lord in this in a very plain way. Esther had asked for all the Jews to fast and pray, which they had done before she went to make the request of the king to go to the first banquet of wine. And that got her in to see the king and be welcomed, and for them to go, she and the king and Haman to have the first banquet of wine. And then she's going to have a second banquet, also apparently of wine. But that night, the night after the first banquet, the king can't sleep. And so what he asks for is that the records of the events that have surrounded him be read to him. And he finds out something he had forgotten. And that was he'd forgotten, or that Mordecai had been the one, because now remember, Mordecai had not done this himself. Mordecai had talked to the queen, Esther, and she had told the king about this, a problem with his two chamberlains, the two guys who stood at the door. I mean, the guys that stand at your door are the guys that let people in or let people out. And if they went in to harm you, there was nobody between you and them. They were it. They were the trusted, most inner trusted guys. And he finds out that these guys were, yes, obviously going to do him harm, but it was Mordecai that found out. And Mordecai that let Queen Esther know. And he asked, what did we ever do for that guy? And he gets told, nothing was ever done for him. Absolutely nothing was ever done for him. And so then we think later in the day, Haman comes to request permission to hang Mordecai, but before he can do that, the king says, what should we do for somebody, that I really want to honor? And Haman figures, well, who could he want to honor more than me? What would be the thing that he would honor? Well, what was it that Haman didn't have? Well, Haman didn't have the royal robes. He couldn't ride on the royal horse, and he couldn't wear the crown. And so what he said was, put on the royal robes that you use, okay, the horse that you use, and the crown that you wear, and let the most royal personage or privileged prince or whatever take that person through the city and proclaim, this is what the Lord will do, this is what the Lord of Shushan, this is what the king will do to honor those who please him. And so what happens is Haman gets told to take the clothes, make sure that Mordecai, his mortal hated enemy, is put on the king's horse with the crown on and the king's clothes, and that Haman walks him through town. The only guy that wouldn't bow down to him that we know of, maybe the other Jews wouldn't, but we know that Haman wouldn't do it. And he goes home and he is so upset. So upset. And it's interesting that his wife says, you know, if this is a Jew that you've started to fall before, then your goose is cooked. You're as good as dead, because you're not gonna, you know, you're not gonna get the best of these guys. This guy is gonna get you. And just then the chamberlains come to let Haman know it's time to go to the banquet of the queen. His life is about to take a very ominous turn very shortly here.